Hey, Heidi MacDonald, Wondercon 2025. A man who needs no introduction, I believe, Mr. Todd McFarlane,
Hey,
the
Heidi.
Toddfather.
How are you doing,
the
buddy? How you
Toddfather.
doing? Good to see you. Good to run into you today.
Yeah, we just ran into Todd out on the balcony. He was like, "Come on in,
Let's
sit down."
do it. Have a little chat.
Todd, I gotta clear up some rumors.
Oh,
some
yeah.
rumors.
Rumors, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, like internet stuff.
yeah,
This
there
is
was
cool.
internet stuff.
Okay.
Diamond Comics. Were you interested in Diamond Comics?
So let's get specific about it. Diamond goes into bankruptcy, but there were like 20 components to it, right? I think people were, when I read some of the stuff, were a little myopic, and there were different pieces of it. One of the 20 pieces is what you and I know is Diamond distribution, right? I mean, that distributes the comic.
Sure.
But there were like 18, 19 other pieces that were in there. There were a couple of the side pieces that I was interested in, and my lawyers and accountants and stuff were negotiating with them to go, hey, how does this all work? Can we get the information so that we can make an educated bid? And the piece that was off to the side was distribution. And I'm like, man, I don't like, would that make any kind of sense, right? Because Steve Jeppe built like this really magnificent distribution system, but it needed volume. And,
Right.
and as Marvel went away, and then DC went away, and then
Image
went
went
away.
away.
You could argue we were like the nail in the coffin. That is like what he had built wasn't sustainable for the volume, right?
You know,
So it worked. It worked if he could have scaled down, or he could have kept the volume, one way or the other.
Yeah.
So,
You know, it's funny you say that because Image kind of created the situation that created the diamond monopoly in a way.
Possibly, yeah. Like I said, we were that
Yeah,
straw,
back
a
in
little
the
bit of
day.
that straw.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happened, because I thought that there would be multiple bidders. I mean, we bid on a couple things, whatever. But it looks like at the end, one company came in and just said, they were going to take one of the big pieces anyways, and they just went, we'll just take it all, right? And there were, like I said, there were components that I was interested in, but my guess is that the bankruptcy courts will approve the single buyer for all of it.
You think? Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Now again, what does that mean? I don't know. How are they going to use it to mesh with their business? I don't know, right? I don't have any insight into why and how they're going to sort of commingle this stuff. But I'll be as curious as you.
Todd, let me ask you though. I hate to, look, this guy's a great creator, a great mind, businessman also. So I'm going to ask him some nerdy business questions. You don't mind that, do I? If I ask you some nerdy business questions?
If I don't like it, I won't answer.
Okay, very good. That's
This is easy.
that's all I could ask. I like to deal in facts, as you know. Like I see Todd standing on the balcony, I'm like, I got to ask this guy what the true story is. We're going straight to the Toddfather himself.
The source.
And getting the source, yes.
If I have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm curious because this is what everybody's like, Diamond Comics. They had become a huge toy distributor. They owe Todd McFarlane toys, a pile of money. And look, I don't want to go outside of legalities or anything like that. You are one of their creditors. Like
Third biggest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, how much of an impact on your toy business is Diamond's bankruptcy and new owners and all of that?
So, not just for me, but I think for obviously hundreds of others that supply, that's the unknown. So it's the big question, and it's the unknown. And here's why: because I think on the comic book distributing end, between Random House and Lunar, like we can sort of say with confidence, comic book distribution is safe and is going good.
Yeah, some people would say that, but we know that it actually is.
But,
it's okay.
But
It's okay.
the back half of that catalog, Diamond catalog, that had all the other stuff, whether it was T-shirts, what we call the Chotsky business, everything non-comic books, that's the unknown.
Right.
So to what extent will somebody come in and pick that up? And in this case, if it's the big buyer that potentially might get approved by the court, we will see whether they think that piece of business is worthy to go there. If I had to take an educated guess, I'm guessing that they're going to want to keep what was already solid there, and then take what the buyers already do and integrate it into it and try to expand. It has,
Well,
if you're
there
gonna if you're gonna buy anything, it has to be additive
Right,
on
well,
the business
right,
level.
and well, I will say, it is, we know that it's Alliance Entertainment, which is a mostly music company, it's a $1 billion distribution company.
Right.
And
With a ton of collectibles,
With a ton of,
right?
but
With
they
a
have
ton
been
of collectibles.
getting into the collectible business.
Right, and they wanna expand
And they
that,
talked
right.
about how they wanna, prove to, like, if you go to an investor and you say, hey, I do DVDs and CDs, they're like, well, I'm just gonna stream that. So now they can say, hey, it's a toy, right?
Yeah.
Physical things that you can't
No,
stream.
I think, like
Yeah.
I said, my guess is, I'm gonna guess there's smart people there, that they're gonna go, how do we use, you don't wanna shutter the accounts that you have, you wanna keep the accounts open and then go, but they're not buying some of the stuff that we do as our core business, maybe we can slide some of our stuff into that and expand all of it.
Right,
So that 1
right.
+ 1 = 3, a little bit done right.
Yeah.
Again, I understand from a business, I'm a businessman too, that I understand sitting down internally and coming up with theories, right? The theories usually are pretty sound. Then you have to execute, and then
Right.
you have to then step back and go, what, does the data show that this execution can work in a fundamental way? I don't know. This is what you and I are gonna be, and everybody is gonna be sitting back watching, saying, oh man, that was either a net neutral.
Right.
There's only 3 things that are gonna happen. It's gonna be a net neutral thing that happened. It's gonna be better, it's gonna be worse.
Right,
That's
right,
it.
right,
So,
right, yeah.
and we don't have any of the information data to know what that answer is right now, so.
So what, let's talk about, all the cool stuff you do though. Like what is the next big cool thing for Todd Toys, for your toys? What is the next, what's your thing you're excited about?
Well,
Enough about
tomorrow-
this distribution.
Tomorrow is always the best day, right? For
Mm-hmm.
my little 10-year-old mind, I'm like, oh man, we're gonna come up with something that's gonna be crazy, and that's gonna be the biggest thing. We're talking to some good creative people to sort of create like sort of internal lines at a wider range of age that's in there. We also are talking about doing like bigger, more expensive toys, if you will, action figures that you can then get and do crazy. Look at, I know, especially on the Spawn, something like Spawn. I know that my audience has grown up with me, so we don't have to worry about everything being $20, right? If you do it right, you can sell something. And so I asked this question the other day. If we can sell a $300, $400 statue,
Which you
what-
do.
Which we do. We do. No.
Yeah, you do.
That's
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
the,
yeah.
when you get a big
Yeah,
piece like
yeah.
that, it's $300, $400.
Right.
What's a $300 or $400 toy got to look like, and what value do you have to give them for it to just be a wow piece, right? And so we talked about a couple ideas, a couple I've been sitting on in my head, and so we're going to be experimenting and trying to see if the engineering can work out to what my brain is, and if it is, then I think we can do enough business with what I have in my head to just sort of go, oh, cool. Like, it doesn't have to be a statue, right? And we can still do a decent amount of business with some cool, expensive toys.
Wow. So, but you're expanding, pushing the limits, pushing the boundaries. Like I know there's like, okay, and
A little bit.
I-
Trying to just go, man, nobody else is doing that, right?
Yeah.
Again, a little, maybe not 100%, but to that magnitude.
Did you, we were just at Toy Fair together, and, I was there, I saw you in the Todd McFarlane booth. Do you walk around at Toy Fair at all? Do you look at other booths? Do you just stay in your own booth?
Yeah, Toy Fair is a bit like comic conventions,
Yeah.
where
Yeah, you can.
you
You
go
gotta-
to panels and then you go to
You
where
gotta-
you sign,
Yeah.
and you got your booth, and you don't really, unfortunately, get to enjoy the vastness
Yeah.
of the show, right? So no, I don't unfortunately get to peruse and shop, if you will,
Right.
when I'm at any of these shows.
Right, yeah, because it was very interesting to me, and one of the things that really struck me is how, when you go to the Bandai booth and they have all the manga toys, I'm like, Chiro Oda and Kira Toriyama, Like they're incredible designers,
yes.
right?
Yep.
Like the greatest
Yes.
ever. Like this
Yes.
is one person sat down, designed all these great, characters.
Yes.
And hey, look, I think Spawn's a pretty good design too. You might have Venom.
I think
you might have had your
I
moment.
think-
you might have done a few cool characters
I think,
like that.
so let's go back to the toy. I think what happened on the toys, and I'll pat ourselves on the back a little bit at McFarlane Toys. I think that like what we brought to the industry, those many years ago, over 30 years ago, was to show that you could actually do elevated toys, right? And not do the 6 to 8 year old kind of toys. And not only could you make them, but there's success with it. Because again, you can have any idea. If it doesn't work, it's hard, nobody's going to want to replicate it. The theory was really from the very beginning, Heidi, was if we can make a toy that's a little bit cooler and it works, then others hopefully will take the blueprint and do it. And so I've said before, the first toy fair I went to with McFarlane Toys, there was maybe 3 or 4 figures that I was jealous of that I saw when I walked around, or that I saw in catalogs, because you could get catalogs. But now you go to Toy Fair and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of toys that I'm jealous of.
Yeah. There's
and
not enough room.
And so now there's a giant audience for it. Plus, there's a big amount of companies that are willing to basically do either toys and or collectibles, whatever word you want to give it, that are aimed at people that are, for the most part, 15 and up. They're basically buying with their own money for themselves, for their collection, right? Or their wants and needs.
Which is a whole, which is just like a mind, it's like, when I first started going to Toy Fair, I'm working for Disney Adventures magazine, remember that little digest, and, I'm like, Mattel, I want to see your toys. Well, because I worked for Disney, they eventually let me in, but it was like a struggle, right? Because they're just like, who wants to write about toys? These are for kids, all right, we were a kids magazine, but it was like, like even then, it was like when you were just starting out with the toys, it was like the idea that toys were collectible for adults was not the thrust, and now it's the whole business. Like kids' toys are like, oh boy, that's wild.
So I saw a big in-depth research in about 1998 of the 100% pie of sales of action figures that were done by big Fortune 500 companies. Number one, the biggest piece of that pie, ages, toys, action figures sold to kids ages 6 to 8. Number one. Number two, preschool. Was the second biggest pie. Number 3, collectors. Fast forward to today, the number one piece is collectors, and the toy companies are kind of, and the retailers are kind of still catching up to that because they've been so long of pandering to moms and 6-year-olds.
Which is okay. We're not saying
No. But I'm saying that was just forever, for decades, that was the number one buyer. So of course your machine is built to cater in this direction, yes. But there's been a course correction now, and they're trying to figure out like how do we make that course correction in a way at store level that basically accommodates everything without getting too crazy so that we're offending people who are walking around in the toy section as a whole, because you're still going to have kids and moms and dads that are buying for Christmas, Easter,
of course.
And birthdays and stuff like that. So they're still trying to figure it out, but the internet is a bit of an equalizer, which is why you got a lot of people either selling direct or, Amazon came in, and sort of got ahead of the game on some of the big sort of brick and mortar legacy stores. So it's an interesting shift that's been happening. But again, I think we all have to be aware that there's still a finite amount of money that everybody has, right? And so you have to pick and choose of, okay. And so the question is there enough, like if Hasbro, and I'm not saying they would do this, I have no insight. If Hasbro was to say, hey, we're going to make a priority, and our priority is going to be we're going to move all of our stuff to collector only, I don't know if they think globally there's enough hardcore business to make that a priority number one over kids, right? Over the kids.
Yeah.
Where smaller companies like myself that don't have nearly the same pressures and diversity of product they have, I can hone in on some of that stuff
Well,
and say, hey, we're okay.
yeah.
We'll take that sliver of business, and it will be sufficient for us to stick around for over 30 years.
Yeah, and you know, when you go to Toy Fair, there's a lot of toys that squishes and, you know, make smells and
Yeah,
fart sounds and all that. So, you know, there's still lots of tons of toys for the children, as there should be. And, but, you know, Todd, you make some really cool toys.
Right, but here's the piece, right? Is like math is a great thing in the world for me, right? I was really good at math, and part of it was because it's not subjective, right? You get that equation right. The teacher didn't matter when I was in high school if I had long hair and I had like purple and I had tattoos and I had earrings or whatever. If I got the answer right, he had to give me the mark, right? In all my other classes, if they didn't like you in writing or in history, they was just like, they could do a subjective mark, right? So math worked for me. And for me, the math here is that like, you're gonna be a kid, consciously a kid, that you know you're buying some stuff and having some fun with, from about 4 to about 10 or 11, because then you start getting into your phone and you're starting to pay attention to peer pressure and whatever else, and you're too cool for toys,
Yeah.
right? And then you come back around and you get a little bit older and you've got your own money and then you can start to collect. But you're gonna be then an adult from 20 to the day you die. And that math, I'd rather play in that area
Yeah, you got a
that's
big-
this big
Yeah,
than the 6 to 11 window that they do a great job of, and there's plenty of product. I'd rather go and play in the one where if I can hook you now, I might get you for decades.
Yeah, no, it's a very sound strategy. You know what, we're running out of time here.
Okay.
Todd just stopped by, impromptu, this is fantastic. Always a pleasure to sit down with the Toddfather, Todd McFarlane. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Heidi. Thanks for having me.
All right, enjoy WonderCon.
Yeah, be good.